Psalm 78, the longest psalm so far in this book. There's 72 verses, and it's a psalm of instruction. Instruction is important. We need to understand our past to help us understand our present. Instruction helps us to guide us in our present so that we will have a bright future. Instruction also tells us what we've done wrong in hopes that maybe we wouldn't do it again. In Hebrew poetry, there's often a lot of contrasts. They're contrasting one thing for another to help us understand what they're talking about. Contrasts often clarify our thoughts. And the contrast is this. And it's a very spiritual thing, and I think for us very important to remember that our sin is horrible. God gets angry with it, it's terrible, and it's condemnable. But contrasting with God's mercy, God always shows his love and unending merciful behavior toward the people who sin against him. Oh, come and listen, the psalm starts out. My people, hear my teaching. Listen to the words of my mouth, and I will open my mouth in parables. I will utter hidden things from old, what we have heard and known, and what our fathers have told us. We will not hide them from their children. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power, and the wonders he has done, and even the statutes and decrees and all those things. And then the hopes are, verse 7, that they would put their trust in God, and they would not forget his deeds, but would keep his commands, and that they wouldn't be like their forefathers, who were stubborn and rebellious, whose hearts were not loyal to God, and whose spirits were not faithful to him. Those are just the first 8 verses. I will tell of this generation. And what happened? Well, these guys didn't keep God's covenant. Our forefathers didn't. God did a lot of miracles. He talks about the miracles in Egypt. He mentions them kind of generally speaking. They crossed through the Red Sea. They had a cloud during the day and light during the night that guided them. But they continued to sin. God showed them mercy. He gave them water. In their disbelief, God became angry. They rebelled. And then he reminds them again that, hey, the 10 plagues, he didn't say 10, but the plagues in Egypt, he mentions the blood of the waters all turning to blood, the flies and the grasshopper, the locust, the hail, and the death of the firstborn. And when Israelites were unscathed, they were brought out by a perfect, a shepherd, a flock. And God drove their enemies out of the promised land, and still these guys built high places and they had idols, and it created jealousy in God. He may be ready to destroy them. He even sent their ark into captivity. He rejected the tents of Joseph, but accepted, or rather chose, Judah. God continues to show mercy to the people. He provided for them water and food out of nothing in a desert. God provided. And they still had just terrible hardened hearts toward him. And then he really highlights it and ends the psalm with the idea that David led them with his skillful hand as a shepherd. We're reminded maybe of Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not be in want. God and David leads their sheep. It's important that we remember that the Old Testament as a whole, as a storybook, a book of stories of Israel's sin and God's redemption, people's trouble and struggle with their own nature. Yet God shows mercy and compassion. He sees their struggle and comes down and provides for them anyway, protects them, fights for them. God fights for us because he loves us. God works at getting us to pay attention to him. So he wants us to be reminded of history, to use the Old Testament. Jesus didn't come to abolish the Old Testament. He came to fulfill it. He didn't come to destroy it and throw it out. He came to make sure it was all taken care of and in a nice package deal, bring us into redemption to God. He fulfilled all the laws. Jesus did. And Jesus took the punishment. He took our guilt. He took God's anger. So it's important for us to remember these stories because they are the truth of Israel's past. They are the truth of our own sinful nature's past. And these stories hopefully will guide us into a better future, a future that where God rules and God will continue to provide and protect and build a palace for us. But we have to be reminded every now and then of the things of the past. So that's really what the psalm is about. Excuse me. And we'll look at the next psalm. Have a blessed day. God bless, and see you next time.